Welcome back to Much Ado About Disney's Star Wars Skeleton Crew. It's a sci-fi about lasers and spaceships and such, and so far I can't say that I like it that much. If you enjoyed it, then by all means feel free. But to be fair, it isn't really made for me. But so far for me, there isn't much to adore, but I am looking forward to seeing Jude Law. I may be setting myself up for a fall, but it starts with the usual text crawl. It's set, well, I don't know. Can someone inquire? Sometime after the fall of the Empire. The New Republic's in power, and I don't mean to be terse, but the evil Empire has fallen and things may have got worse. Pirates are about and are raiding a ship, and the New Republic just can't get a grip. It opens with action, and as usual I'm sour because that means nothing will happen for the next full half hour. Granted, it has a few problems with pacing, but the furry pirate will get Reylo's hearts racing. A ship is floating without a chase. The opening is feeling out of place. On the whole, it doesn't feel too bright, because I watched from the start and somehow still missed the fight. Right now the pirates are getting on board to raid the ship's vault and steal a hoard, and to me the plan also seems out of place as they get hit point blank and blown into space. Their captain really must be the worst to have not thought to blow their cannons off first. I sit here watching and I feel I must stress how quickly both ships would decompress. Maybe they have a way around it to be fair, but as presented both ships would lose all their air. The pirates walk into a trap that is tame, because luckily for them their enemy can't aim. Most of the pirates should probably fall, but lucky for them, the crew aim at the wall. They take the vault and break down the door to find just a single coin on the floor, and I wonder why in a galaxy far, far away. Somehow coins are still the mainstay. The pirates are angry because they came here to rob, and it looks like the captain has just lost his job. We then cut away to a couple of boys, one in his room playing with toys. And as I watch, I'm slowly realising that Disney Lucasfilm is really patronising. Because I think back to the original story's wealth. Now they think kids will only like it if they see themselves. To me this point has never held true and shows weird zeal, because without all this the first film still had mass appeal. I'm not sure really what they're thinking, because the more they do this, the more their fan base is shrinking. Lucasfilm have left their fans in a schism, because Disney just can't get past identitarianism. The kid with the toys spends every day taking the space bus to space school in the usual way, and there's just no way of blocking the realisation that this shows a shocking lack of imagination. He lives in the space suburbs, studies for a space test, and his life in retrospect hardly seems blessed. His dad's always working and he has some strife, and the government test will determine his whole life. To me this idea did nought but appall, the thought of never being free at all. But for Disney it seems to fuel their fire. This is an outcome they seem to desire. The end of the Empire caused this to arise, and this is all coming from the alleged good guys. Watching their Star Wars just makes me feel sad, because Disney can't seem to tell between good and bad, and at this point I feel the need to warn you quite how much all this looks like California. It seems like Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk, well, their imagination goes as far as unusual milk. They could have written anything at all, but their world building stretches as far as a space mall, and in this I don't mean to cause strife, but they appear to have just written their own life. Far from a galaxy far, far away, they appear to have just written America today. The thought of originality is a thing they shirk. They have droids, not Mexicans, doing the manual work. It sadly appears their minds just stall at the task of writing something original at all, and at this point I find it hard to say why they constantly fall into boring cliché. The girls ride speed bikes while the lads play with toys. Once again the girls are more masculine than the boys. The girls' faces are set to a permanent scowl. They open their mouths but mostly to growl. It's hard to like a character who's constantly rude and is mostly comprised of a bad attitude. I can't even try to find any yen for masculine girls and feminised men. Originality may be a little too much to hope, to be fair, when they can't even manage to come up with new hair. It's really hard to compliment them when they appear to have just written Sabine Wren again. It makes my feelings hard to assuage because they've written their politics onto every page. It's kind of worrying how they can't refrain from pushing the message and not entertain. The young man wakes up late for his testing when he reads Jedi comics instead of resting. So late in fact he misses his ride, and his dad and the school won't let that slide. So he grabs a speed bike, and I'm trying to be kind, but he wasn't even that far behind. He nonsensically goes through some woods to take a shortcut and instead drives the bike straight into a rut. He falls into a trench and ends up on the floor, fails to climb out but finds a hidden door. The door reminds him of the story he read about Jedi that kept him out of bed. He gets caught by a robot having broken a rule and gets dragged to the principal back at his school. His dad gets called and all the rest, and he was so late that he missed the test. He's supposed to be studying, but his response is poor. He instead takes his friend and goes back to the door, despite the fact he didn't want to share. He was shocked that Scowling Girl was already there. She'd heard him tell his dad of the door. Somehow she found it on the entire forest floor. The door had caused her interest to spike. She was hoping to find some parts for a bike. The girl's friend manages to open the door, and the curious kids go in to explore. At this point, I feel the need to let slip that this isn't a temple, it's a spaceship. They get locked in and the power goes out. They try to restore it with many a shout, but when the power's restored, the autopilot's on. The ship takes off and the kids are gone. The ship is gone without a trace. With the kids on board, it blasts into space. There are script problems that I'd like to mend, but as for this episode, that is the end. There are a few issues, but I think I'll relent, because this is probably better written than their adult content, and I may be showing little tact, but unlike Amanda Stenberg, these children can act. But it's hard to avoid the worrying truth. Disney have an obsession with brainwashing youth. I wonder what the next episode has in store. And what the hell happened to Jude Law?
If you only knew the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. No!